Before the sun, before the heat, before we untangle from our sheets, before this summer day unfurls. Pretty world. Before the paper is dropped at the gate, before our coffee, before we are late, for dreams are lost like midnight pearls. Pretty world, pretty world, pretty roses, pretty smile, morning light, pretty eyes, lazy curls. Pretty world. Before the traffic, before the jets.
Simplest definition, cheese is the concentration of the solids in milk and the removal of the moisture, okay? Goat cheese sometimes goes by the word chèvre, C-H-E-V-R-E, which is the French word for goat. And in America, when we say chèvre, we really just mean goat cheese. But there's 400 different kinds of goat cheese, so it comes in many different shapes. This is fresh. Fresh meaning it doesn't have a rind, it's not ripened, it's only 48 hours old. It only takes 48 hours to go from milk to being in this form that you find it here. And we make this in many different flavors. The flavor that we have for you at 12 o'clock is roasted red pepper, and it's seasoned with a little bit of sherry vinegar. In 1984, my sister Ginny got an opportunity for a really good new job at Moses Cone Hospital in Greensboro. And she was a nurse, and she had been living in the city. We grew up on a corn farm in Illinois, and when we grew up, we both went off and had other careers. But when she got this chance to come to North Carolina, she said, I'm ready to get back on the land. So she started looking for a farm to buy, an abandoned farm that she could turn into a hobby farm for her and her pet goats. And that way she'd live in the country like she wanted to, and she'd be able to bring a farm back into production that was in danger of being lost. We continued our philosophy and our method that we really wanted to spend our money as close to home as possible. And we feel this is really a part of sustainability for the local rural economy, that we really need to keep the money in the local economy and give your local craftspeople work, and your local vendors and your local farmers and your local food producers. So we thought if that's what we want people to do when they buy our cheese, then we should be that same way as we develop our farm.
The building was positioned off of the sun to be exactly lined up so the evening sun can hit the front of the building through those big windows, and then out about 10 foot or so in the great room, there's gravel about 3 foot deep all the way across the front, so that when the sun comes in, it warms it during the day, and at night, when it goes down, the heat comes out of that gravel and goes up. Really was a good idea, because I'd never done it before, but I could do it. I told him I could do it. Yeah.
Yeah, my husband and my father were in business together, and they actually built the building, not the expansion, but the original building that was here. My dad has since retired, but now he hauls milk for us every other day. So he's the milk hauler here for the dairy. I've been here 19 years. Started out actually washing dishes for the dinners, the meal events. And an intern left, and I needed somebody to fill in for the intern until they found their next person. And that was 19 years ago. I've been here since. My daughter Cassie, who works here, who's 18, she used to milk goats with the goat lady. And I remember Jenny told her, Cassie, as soon as you can stand on this stool and reach the goats, you can milk. Well, she would test that stool out, and she did. She would milk goats with Jenny, and Jenny taught her a lot of things, a lot. Cooking, she taught her how to cook, and Cassie helped take care of her when she was dying, and that was special. It really was. The Tates are great people, and their family. They're not, I mean, they're employers, but they're family and friends first.
The neighbors and the old-time families, I think, understand that the right kind of new people who love the land and love the place and value the traditions and want to make a contribution are good for the area. And that's true in the Liberty area with many stories, many family stories. But at the same time, we were bringing in new ideas that they thought were pretty odd.
We own 15 acres a mile from here, and there's a house there. And so we hired a farm manager, and he and his wife and their little son live there, and they do all of our vegetable farming now. And so we have 3+ acres under cultivation. We have about 75 households who live in the urban areas around the farm. And once a week we go into town to about 5 drop sites and deliver a box of sustainably raised vegetables from our farm 26 weeks a year, and they pay us an annual subscription, and then that funds our farmer to grow them their vegetables.
Community-supported agriculture is something of a new idea. It actually came into this country in the, I think it was late 70s, early 80s, and has spread like wildfire in this country and other places. It's very important because the economy becomes more vibrant. The community becomes more vibrant. People suddenly say, oh my gosh, there's a way I can plug in. And I'm not just plugged in, I know something about where my food is coming from, so I'm less scared about it. I don't have to worry that I'm feeding this to my children when we just heard that, spinach or baby food or some product out of China, which is getting people sick. I don't want to feed that to my child. How to feed almost or around about 100 families off of 3 acres is the challenge. We don't use the chemical pesticides that kill all the pests. We use the organic certified pesticides that most of the ones that we use are either microbial, and so will impact a specific insect population. They ingest it by eating the leaf. That microbe gets inside of them and then starts deteriorating their insect. They get sick, basically, and then they die, okay? So it doesn't impact the other insects. Another one that we use very rarely is pyrethrin base. It's called Pyganic, and that's from chrysanthemum blossoms. Okay, so who would guess that chrysanthemum blossoms are toxic? I have to wear a gas mask, double valve, and rubber gloves to apply this stuff, okay? Because what it does, it's a broad scope pesticide and will kill all kinds of pests, including honeybees. All you need is one bee taking a little bit of this back to the hive, kills the hive. I learned the hard way the first year on that one. There's a lot of vibrancy in agriculture, there's vibrancy in community, and there's vibrancy in the greater Liberty area as we bring up supported agriculture and sustainable agriculture in the area.
I don't think there's much of a choice but to have more sustainable agriculture. If you look at the growing size of the world population, our inability to produce food in highly incremental amounts like we used to, climate change, you just have so many things occurring that are going to make it hard to feed the world. And the fact that agriculture is having such a negative impact on the environment, really substantial change just has to occur. There's no question about it. Now we can wait until there's some catastrophe occurs, or we can get to it quickly, which would make much more sense. The question is, what do you do? Well, there are a variety of public policy things that have to be put in place. But in addition, people need to be educated and informed and sensitized to these issues. There are some real sites of brilliance where that's occurring now, and we just need more of them. So it's a very important and interesting question about whether sustainable farming can feed the world. I don't really know the answer to that yet because nobody has scaled this up sufficiently to know how it can be done in massive ways in order to feed the world's growing population. Some people dismiss it by saying it can never be done in a cost-effective way, so why even try? Other people say it's an elitist thing because only the rich people are going to be able to afford this, and you're ignoring the people where the real disease burden is. But I think it's definitely worth trying, and it's important to do this right, to have government policies that support it and nurture the farming enterprises where it's occurring. And you hope that it can be done in a scalable way that is able to feed, hundreds of millions of people around the world.
There is this tradition in America of portraying farmers as being dumb, and there's in the culture, like hee-haw and the Chick-fil-A commercials with the cows that can't spell. I really don't like those commercials because the subtext there is farmers are dumb. Okay, let me tell you a little secret. There are no more dumb farmers. They're all out of business. The only farmers that are left are the ones that are called to the work and are smart enough to survive. So does dairy make sense in Liberty? Probably not, unless you've got that calling and that smarts. I'm not good at fixing a tractor, okay? I'm not that kind of smart farmer. Now you need those, but we figured out early on, we've got to be smart enough to make enough money to hire those guys to help us, because that's not who we are. But some of those guys who are good with the animals and good with the tractors, they're not good with marketing. So that's the partnership that we have here. That's one reason it works well, because we have these 4 other family dairy farms who are good with the animals, good with the land, good with the machinery. They don't want to make the cheese or market it, but they bring their milk here and we do that piece. So it's a good partnership.
I think Steve liked my approach, and a lot of grazing and a lot of letting nature kind of feed the cows rather than us trying to force feed everything into them. So he wondered if I may try some of his goats, and so we were able to develop a relationship there. And I was kind of excited about milking goats because I like milk cows. Why not try something different, And so that really has worked out nicely. Steve knows how to do the cheese thing, and I know how to get the milk and get the goats out and let them get some good grazing in. And so, yeah, it's worked out really nice there. I enjoyed partnering. Pesticides, if you've got to have them to farm, okay. But if I can look at a field, one of my best friends, the Amish guy, he doesn't look at a field and see weeds. If there's an imbalance out there, he would look at and another example would be spiny amaranth, which is red root pigweed. If he looked at the field of that, he would say, Neil, you're not lacking a pesticide or a poison. You're lacking calcium, or you're lacking boron. You're lacking zinc. You have an ample supply of phosphorus. This is great. You've got to look at the positive side of weeds and not just pour toxic chemistry on them to get rid of it, because you're really not helping yourself in the long run. Yeah.
Most farms don't go on because the farmers can't figure out a way to pass it on to the next generation. So we didn't want that to happen here. It would have been much easier for us to have just sort of slowly, as we neared time when we wanted to ease off and retire a little bit, it would have been much easier for us to just sort of turn the dial down and then turned it off. That would have been much easier, and we could have done that. But we said, wow, that's sad to think we've done all this, and that when we need to retire, our cheesemakers are going to lose their jobs, and our cheese staff and our partner farms, don't have anywhere to sell their goat milk. That's sad. That's why we decided to get bigger. It sounds like a crazy thing. In some ways, maybe it was, but as you're nearing retirement, to actually grow your business. But that was the way that we could make the business big enough
that these partner farms then could have good income, and our cheesemakers could have good income to be a staff and to run it without us having to work every day in it to keep it going, which is the way it was in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just the three of us.
I think she would be a little bit concerned for us, but at the same time, she would have done the same thing, because I know that we saw this as something that we needed to do, and we got behind it and started doing it. That doesn't mean it's always going to work out great, especially at first. You know, you're going to get lots of problems. And she would say, yeah, that's right. You're going to have lots of problems with this, and but it's going to be okay. So no, I think that she would be fine with what we've done. Yeah, and I think she'd be right in the middle of it if she were here.
It started off as a dream or a walk we went in the woods.
In the moon of the budding trees, I was gifted new eyes to see all of the shifting shape and ways you can be. Wake the dreams into realities. Wake the dreams into realities. Sunset diamonds trickle down our cheeks. The language of no words is how we speak. Pachamama spinning firelight, and a little bear singing by the fireside. Out of the city with the wind on our necks. Check, that's us whistling up on your neck. Moonlit diamonds sparkle into my mouth. Feels like hunger and it tastes like salt. Feels like hunger and it tastes like salt.